Hey, how's it going, dude? So first, today I'm going to show you how you can diagnose a noisy power steering, which may or may not be accompanied by a sticky steering wheel. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is to check the level of your power steering fluid. And if you're low, you want to add power steering fluid, just make sure you look in your owner's manual and add the correct power steering fluid for your car. So next you start your car and see whether the noise has gone away or not. So next what you want to do is to try to bleed out the air that could be trapped inside your power steering system. And you do that by turning your steering wheel from lock to lock with the engine running. So basically you turn your steering wheel all the way to the right and then all the way back to the left, and you do this for about a dozen times or so, and this should help bleed out the air that's in the system. Now after adding fluid and then turning the steering wheel back and forth a couple of times, you find that the noise goes away and you also get your power steering back. Well, in that case, you obviously had a leak in your power steering system, and that's what was causing the noise and the lack of power steering. Now later in this video, I'll go over how you can go about finding leaks in your power steering system. But if you find out that bleeding the air out of the system has made no difference at all, well, in that case, most of the times the problem is going to lie with your power steering pump, which is back there on this card that I can't show you, but it's generally somewhere up here, which is more accessible. Now I say most of the times it's your power steering pump because sometimes bad rack and pinion would have the same signs. Now usually a bad rack and pinion is also accompanied by some other signs like loose steering when you're driving down the road, or leaking, especially from the ends where your inner tie rod's attached to your rack and pinion. Alright, see, this is your inner tie rod end. This is where it attaches to your rack and pinion, and inside here there's a seal which is in fact leaking on this rack and pinion. Now a dead giveaway that you have a bad rack and pinion is whenever you go to make a turn. So for example, over here we're about to make a right turn. So after you make the turn, your steering wheel is gonna try to straighten it out and come back to the neutral position on its own. Now if you make that turn and it doesn't come back towards the neutral position, then that's a dead giveaway, you have a bad rack and pinion. Alright, so we're gonna make a right turn. Now I'm gonna let go and see how it's starting to come back. Now if it was just stuck on the right side and I had to manually straighten it out, then that was a dead giveaway that the rack and pinion is shot and needs to be replaced. Now there's a chance that the high pressure line that goes from your power steering pump to your rack and pinion could be clogged and causing you to have issues as well. But that line and your rack and pinion, whenever you replace one or the other, you should replace the other one as well. Because what happens is that when the power steering fluid comes out of your steering pump and enters that pressure line and then goes to your power steering rack and pinion, the power steering fluid is under a lot of pressure. In fact, maybe 1,000 psi or more. Now what happens is that over time, when that pressure line wears out and deteriorates, the material from that line end up inside your rack and pinion. And inside your rack and pinion, you have way more than the seals on the ends of it where your inner tie rods go. And then when those seals go bad, you pretty much need a rack and pinion. And in fact, most manufacturers will require you to buy that pressure line when you replace your rack and pinion. Otherwise, they won't guarantee the rack and pinion. Alright, so let me explain it on the whiteboard. Hopefully you guys have an easier time understanding. Basically, we'll start at the fluid reservoir. Fluid from here goes to your power steering pump. From here, your pump pumps it out at 1,000 psi or more to your rack and pinion. And once you use it up, it goes through the return line back to your power steering fluid reservoir. Pretty nice and easy. Now, if you can get your hands on a power steering gauge set, you can put a gauge after your power steering pump, and if the PSI of pressure that's coming out of your steering pump is up to spec, but you're still having noise, then that could indicate a problem with the pressure line and the rack and pinion. But that pressure gauge set is something mechanic would have, and most do-it-yourselfers are not going to be able to afford a good one or even borrow it from the local auto parts store. Now, as far as where you can look for leaks, again, these lines, all of them could leak. Your power steering pressure line could obviously leak through the pressure line because it's under so much pressure. And again, the seals at the end of your rack and pinion. And also you should pay special attention to the clamps that attach this return line and this fluid supply line to your power steering pump. And if you have a bad power steering pump, you could have a leak from the bearings or where the shaft goes through your power steering pump as well. Also, I should mention that whenever you replace a component of your power steering system, you need to flush the old power steering fluid out of there and replace it with a new one. And in fact, I have a video on how you can do that exactly, and I'll put a link to that video along with some other related videos on this side of the screen that you can click on. There'll also be links in the description box down below as well. So with that said, hope this video helped you out. If it did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more like it, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.